On this episode of Canadian Football League Weekly, we discuss the Week 8 games played north of the border, where the Montreal Alouettes showed everyone that they are the best team in the CFL so far this season. Welcome to Canadian Football League Weekly, presented by the World of Football. Each week, we recap the games played north of the border in the CFL, and we also look ahead to next week's games. I'm Randy Snow, and I'm joined as always by my son Adam.
And we didn't plan this. We both got our vacation shirts on. It's like we're both about to go hit the yacht, which neither of us have. I don't care what people think, what kind of money we make on this channel, but that is not true. We could just squash those rumors right now. But no, I love that shirt, by the way. That's a nice looking shirt.
Thank you. Another one that my wife found on the internet, and she buys these things because she hates them. She thinks they're ugly, and I love them. So keep them coming.
Yeah, I think they look great.
All right, well, let's get into this week's scores. On Thursday night, it was the Montreal Alouettes over the Saskatchewan Roughriders by the score of 20-16. Saskatchewan led this game 16-3 at halftime, but was shut out 17-0 in the second half. Montreal quarterback Caleb Evans started the game for the Alouettes, but he was replaced by third-string quarterback Davis Alexander in the second half. Alexander threw a pair of touchdown passes, both to wide receiver Reggie White Jr. in the third quarter, for the come-from-behind win. Montreal quarterback Davis Alexander completed 15 of 18 passes for 178 yards and 2 touchdowns. Caleb Evans completed 9 of 17 passes for 91 yards and no touchdowns. Wide receiver Tyson Philpott had 7 catches for 88 yards, and wide receiver Reggie White Jr. had 4 catches for 50 yards and 2 touchdowns. On defense, linebacker Tyrese Beverett had 5 tackles and a fumble recovery. For Saskatchewan, quarterback Shea Patterson completed 21 of 33 passes for 222 yards and no touchdowns. Running back Frankie Hickson ran for 117 yards and a touchdown, while wide receiver Samuel Emilus led the receivers with 6 catches for 63 yards. On defense, linebacker C.J. Rivas had 7 tackles. This was quite a game. I think I watched part of this game. I don't know if I fell asleep or not, but Montreal, it looked like they were dead in the water, and they go to their third-string quarterback, and man, he just lit things up, and they came from behind to win the game. And I mean, what more can you ask for from your third-string quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, depth is always key when you're playing a game of attrition. I mean, it's an 18-game season, 20 weeks, 18 games they play, and injuries are going to happen. And a lot of times the good teams, they have guys at the depth positions to, move on up. Quarterback's such a hard position, even in the CFL, to find somebody that just come in, plug them in, and have them be successful. So to have a third stringer come in like that and to, help you get a win on a team that's already good, a team that we've already kind of considered or crowned even the front runners for this year's Grey Cup game. It's still a long season. We'll see what happens. I still like Saskatchewan, though. Let's not get that tangled up. Look, as good as Montreal is, and all these teams have got banged up quarterbacks, it seems like. Everyone's dealing with some sort of quarterback issue for one reason or another. So I won't, hate on Saskatchewan too much. I still like Saskatchewan. I think they'll still be a sneaky team at the end of the year. It's a 4-point loss. And, they can easily probably get the best of this Montreal team later on down the season.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about Montreal when the season started, but boy, oh boy, you can't deny what they've done, and I have to tip my hat to them. They are the best team in the league right now.
Right, record-wise, that's a fact. I think that there's just a couple teams that, they've had a couple rough games here and there, that it's still kind of anybody between BC, Montreal, and Saskatchewan. Those might be your 3 front runners right there. So we'll have to wait and see. It's still, we're not even halfway through the season yet. So it'll be fun. That's the one thing I can guarantee you. It's going to be a fun journey and race to figure out who the best team is going to be at the end of the season. On Friday night, we saw the Ottawa Red Blacks defeat the Calgary Stampeders 33-6. It was all Ottawa from start to finish in this game, as the Red Blacks led 16-3 at the half. In the third quarter, wide receiver Khalil Pimpleton returned a punt 99 yards for a touchdown, giving the Red Blacks a 26-3 lead. Backup quarterback Dustin Crum added a rushing touchdown late in the game. Calgary could only manage a pair of field goals by Rene Paredes, the longest being from 50 yards. Ottawa is now 4-0 at home this season for the first time since 1978. Ottawa quarterback Drew Brown completed 30 of 37 passes for 325 yards and a touchdown, while wide receiver Khalil Pimpleton led the receivers with 7 catches for 80 yards. Kicker Lewis Ward made 4 field goals during the game, and on defense, linebacker Davion Taylor had 4 tackles and 10 tackles for a loss, while defensive lineman Bryce Carter had 3 tackles and 2 sacks. For the Stampeders, quarterback Jake Mayer completed 20 of 27 passes for 136 yards, but no touchdowns. Running back Dedrick Mills ran for 43 yards and also led all receivers with 5 catches for 57 yards. Wide receiver Cam Eccles had 5 catches for 53 yards. On defense, defensive lineman James Vaughters recorded 2 tackles, a sack, a fumble recovery, and 3 tackles for loss. Now, something during this game that you mentioned that I had no idea about, because, it was such a blowout. What can we really say other than Ottawa looks like a great up-and-coming team this season. They're going to be a team to watch out for. They could be in that 4th spot right now. We talked about the other 3 teams. Ottawa could be that sneaky team right now, probably in the 4th slot. But you had mentioned that during the broadcast, they said that Khalil Pimpleton is actually from Muskegon, Michigan. And he went to Central Michigan University for college. I had no idea.
Yep. I had forgotten that myself, and so he's obviously been to Kalamazoo a time or two, so that's a little connection we've got with Mr. Pimpleton. They're calling him Lord Pimpleton for some reason. His
Why
teammates.
not?
I don't know. I don't know if that's got something to do with the Scarlet Pimpernel or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, that's kind of the nickname he's picked up, and he's doing great things up there this year.
Yeah, I think maybe it's because he's having a great season. He has been. He's a name that we've brought up week in and week out. He's been helping out that Ottawa team. So, kudos to him. I hope he continues having a great season.
All right, on Saturday, it was the Toronto Argonauts defeating the Winnipeg Blue Bombers 16-14 in overtime. The score was 6-6 at halftime. Toronto led 13-6 after defensive back Tavares McFadden intercepted a pass and returned it 41 yards for a touchdown. But Winnipeg quarterback Zach Collaros threw a touchdown pass to wide receiver Ontario Wilson with 3 minutes and 58 seconds left, making the score 13-13 at the end of regulation, sending the game into overtime. On Winnipeg's possession in overtime, they missed a field goal but scored a rouge when the ball went out of the end zone. On Toronto's possession, kicker Lyram Hiralahu kicked a 34-yard field goal to give the Argos the win. Toronto quarterbacks Nick Arbuckle and Cameron Dukes combined to complete 15 of 26 passes for 124 yards and no touchdowns. Running back Kadeem Carey ran for 62 yards. He also had 6 catches for 35 yards. Wide receiver Mackay Polk had 3 catches for 49 yards. On defense, defensive back Royce Mechie had 8 tackles, a fumble recovery, and a forced fumble. Defensive back Benji Franklin had 7 tackles, a sack, a fumble recovery, and a tackle for loss. For Winnipeg, quarterback Zach Collaros completed 25 of 37 passes for 317 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Running back Brady Oliveira ran for 96 yards, and wide receiver Ontario Wilson had 7 catches for 129 yards and a touchdown. On defense, linebacker Reda Kromdi had 8 tackles, 2 sacks, and 2 tackles for loss. This was a heck of a game. I watched this whole thing. I think I missed a little bit of the overtime, but this was a great game the way Winnipeg came back. But I was rooting for Toronto, of course, as always, and I was glad to see him come away with the win.
Yeah, it's rare for me, I feel like, to see overtime in the CFL. So when I saw that final score, it took me a second because I did miss this game, but it was weird. I was like, how did they only win by 2 points? I thought maybe they got a safety. I didn't know how that worked, but the fact that each team gets a possession, then Winnipeg gets the rouge, and then Toronto goes down and kicks the game-winning field goal to win the game. Exciting stuff. Only the CFL can. Overtime is usually exciting no matter what league, but I like the way the CFL does it, and the fact that rouge is kind of snuck in there. Like, How'd you win by a point in overtime? Well, that's how, because one team got a rouge, then the other team, maybe they didn't get anything. Maybe they go down and kick a field goal like Toronto did. But
Yeah.
I'm curious. We've talked about this a while ago, but if Chad Kelly's going to be coming back soon for the Argos, I haven't heard anything. I'm not sure how much more his suspension is.
Yeah, I
But
don't know.
the Argonauts need something to get a spark because both the Argos and Winnipeg, it's been a rough season for both of them. They were kind of the creme de la creme in the CFL the last few years, especially the Blue Bombers, obviously. But the Argos, won a Grey Cup just 2 seasons ago, and now it just seems like they are just struggling. I don't know what it is with them, but it's weird seeing those two former powerhouses just kind of being kind of the middling game. It's just an odd thing to see now.
Yeah. Yeah, this highlight package was my highlights of the week. This was a great game. A lot of fumbles, a lot of just weird plays, all over the place. So yeah, if you're going to check out any of the highlights this week, go to cfl.ca. Check out the highlight package of this game, Toronto and Winnipeg.
Or go and subscribe to their YouTube channel. I mean, that's how I do it. Go to their YouTube channel.
That too.
Then finally on Sunday, the Hamilton Tiger Cats defeated the Edmonton Elks 44-28. It was 6-6 at the end of the first quarter, being all field goals scored at that point. Hamilton wide receiver Luther Hakunavanu had a 66-yard catch and run with under 2 minutes remaining in the half, making the score 21-8. Hamilton scored a touchdown on their first possession of the second half, another on their second possession, one more on their third possession to take a 41-8 lead. Edmonton quarterback McLeod Bethel Thompson was replaced by quarterback Trey Ford in the fourth quarter with just under 10 minutes to go in the game to rousing cheers from the crowd. He threw 3 touchdown passes to make the final score at least look respectable. Hamilton quarterback Bo Levi Mitchell completed 17 of 25 passes for 327 yards and a career-high 5 touchdowns. Running back James Butler ran for 98 yards, and wide receiver Luther Hakunavanu had 2 catches for 83 yards and a touchdown. On defense, linebacker Kyle Wilson had 5 tackles. For the Elks, quarterback McLeod Bethel Thompson completed 10 of 22 passes for 85 yards and an interception, while quarterback Trey Ford completed 10 of 15 passes for 121 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also ran for 19 yards. Running back Javon Leake ran for 55 yards, while wide receivers Gavin Cobb, Curly Gittins Jr., and Eugene Lewis all caught touchdown passes. On defense, linebacker Nick Anderson had 9 tackles, a fumble recovery, and 3 tackles for a loss. Hey, I thought Trey Ford looked great. When he came in 10 minutes he scored 3 touchdowns. So I hope that the Elks go in that direction. They also looked good this week despite the loss. They had that indigenous logo on the helmet this week in the middle of the field. They used it on the broadcast graphic. I love that indigenous logo. And I guess during the game, they broadcast in the Cree native language. That's pretty sweet.
Yes, all their home games this year are broadcast in the indigenous Cree language, and they showed the 2 guys that are doing it, and they had them calling a couple plays, and it was very interesting to hear that. And I've never heard the Cree language before, not that I know of.
Yeah, that's awesome. This is what makes the world of football so magical, and the Canadian Football League for that matter. That there's just so much happening, so much cool stuff that Joe Schmo out in the middle of nowhere, Idaho, probably didn't know that they were doing games broadcast in this language, and now they probably do because we told them about it. And it's just so much cool stuff out there. I love it. I love finding out stuff like this. These are the kind of cool football stories we love talking about. And I also love to talk about Trey Ford. Let's go back to him real quick. Came in the game in the fourth quarter. We had been talking, at least all season, I've been high on the Elks, despite them now being 0-7. I thought they were a team that was just this close. And is this close going to be Trey Ford? Could he be the difference if he gets a week's worth of the practice reps? If he gets the start at quarterback? Could he be that big of a difference maker to help Hamilton get their first win of the season?
Well, during the broadcast, even the broadcasters were saying towards the end of the first half that they're probably going to put Trey Ford in, after halftime because the offense just wasn't going anywhere, and it was obvious they needed something. But when they came out in the second half, they were talking to the coach, as he came out of the locker room, and they asked him if he was going to switch quarterbacks, and he said, "Nope, we're sticking with McLeod Bethel Thompson." And he had 2 series during the third quarter, and they were both 2 and outs. So he did nothing in the third quarter, and they finally brought in Trey Ford with 10 minutes to go in the game, and he just lit things up. They were comparing him to Doug Flutie, the way he was scrambling around and avoiding the defenders, and it's true. It did remind me of Doug Flutie in the way he ran around and just got away from people and would find an open receiver. And so he worked the ball down the field 3 times and scored 3 touchdowns. So I really think he needs to be their starting quarterback going forward.
Yeah, it's crazy. Last year he was 153 for 227. He threw for over 2,000 yards last year, 12 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. This year, he's only thrown 11 passes all season. He's thrown 17. He's completed 11 this season, and for only 125 yards. So, and those 3 touchdowns. I just feel like he is a big missed opportunity for this Elks team right now. He is a guy that clearly has a lot of upside, and he's a guy that I feel like could maybe be that difference maker that we've been wondering what Edmonton needed. I wonder if he's in. I hope he gets a shot. I hope he gets a legitimate start at the starting job. As much as we like McLeod, Bethel Thompson obviously helped bring a Grey Cup to Toronto. Did some great stuff down in the USFL when he was down playing in that league. I get wanting a veteran to be your starting quarterback, and clearly at halftime the coach thought, McLeod was still the guy. I think they have to rethink that. You're an 0-7 ball club who've literally lost a handful of games by a field goal, and a guy like Trey Ford can get you that difference and more, just with his legs, his arm talent, and he'll just be that difference maker. So I hope he gets that shot going forward.
Yeah. Yeah, and on by this week was the BC Lions. All right, let's take a look at the standings after 8 weeks. In the East Division, it's the Montreal Alouettes sitting on top with a 6-1 record, Ottawa Red Blacks at 5-2, Toronto Argonauts at 4-3, and the Hamilton Tiger Cats at 2-5. In the West Division, it's the BC Lions on top with a 5-2 record, Saskatchewan Roughriders also at 5-2, Calgary Stampeders at 3-4, Winnipeg Blue Bombers at 2-6, and the Edmonton Elks at 0-7. Looking ahead to matchups in Week 9, on Thursday, it's going to be BC at Winnipeg. Friday, it's Montreal at Hamilton. Saturday, Edmonton at Saskatchewan. Sunday, Toronto at Calgary. And this week, the Ottawa Red Blacks are on a bye. All right, looking at some news items from up in the CFL. CFL superfan Chris Tomofichuk succeeded in setting a new Guinness World Record in Toronto for seeing games at all 9 stadiums in the fastest time. The record was 364 hours, a little over 15 days. He broke that record by about an hour and a half or so. But another group is already planning to try and break that record sometime next month. I think it's a group of 3 guys that are deciding they want to try this and they want to get that done. So, yeah. But, I think it's going to take a while. It's a world record, but it won't be certified until they review all the stuff that he had to do. He had to wear a GPS tracker, and he had to get sworn statements by people that saw him at the game and review all this stuff. So it'll be a while until they give the official stamp on it. But right now it is a world record, and congratulations to him. And he was collecting money at every stop for cancer research, so good for him. And fans at every stadium came out to support him, gave him money. It was a great thing to see. So I'm really happy for him. It's an awesome accomplishment. Something I would like to do, but I'll just settle for going to see all the stadiums in my lifetime. So,
we can dream. I mean, that'd be fun to try to do. I mean, us, we'd like to hit the road and do all that. If we could plan it out and do it and raise money for a charity, I mean, who wouldn't want to do that? That's what's awesome about it. Again, more great stuff about what makes football great across all the different types out there in Canadian Football League especially. Good for him. I think that's awesome. And to the fellas that are about to try to follow up and either break the record or tie the record, I don't know where they'll end up at. I assume you do it to get the record by yourselves.
Sure.
But, I mean, hopefully, they have a good time, be safe, enjoy a lot of great football. I mean, I think it's cool that people do this. I don't know if they're doing a charity thing as well. If they are on top of it, heck yeah. Everybody should just keep doing this. Keep doing it. Keep trying to break the record and then raise money for charity along the way. That's awesome.
There you go. And one other side note, the New York Giants have released Canadian quarterback Nathan Rourke, who we just talked about last week. He was with the BC Lions in 2021 and 2022. And he was just on one of their broadcasts talking about the start of the NFL season and saying, if things didn't work out, he'd love to come back to BC and play up there because he really enjoyed playing with the team. So, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen now. I don't know if he'll wind up with another NFL team or if he'll wind up going back to Canada. Vernon Adams Jr. has got a pretty good hold on that starting quarterback job up in BC. So I don't know.
Yeah.
He'd be a backup at least right now. So we'll see what happens. But it was just a little sad that
Yeah.
Nathan Rourke got cut.
It's a bummer. He's another one of those young quarterbacks that when he was going off for the BC Lions, that we were like, dang, this is a guy who's going to be, running the CFL for years to come probably. And then when he went to get his NFL shot, we're like, all right, I get it. Moved around from Jacksonville. I think then he went up to New York. I think maybe one stop in between there somewhere. Still a
He was
talent.
with the Patriots.
I hope he comes Patriots. So I hope he comes back to the CFL. Actually, I mean, don't give up on your NFL dream. If an opportunity opens up, you got to take it.
Sure.
But we'll see. I would love to see him come back in the CFL. He could come back up, join any of these teams. A team that he could probably hook up with that could probably use him is the Toronto Argonauts. I'm just going to throw that out there. So, I mean, because with Edmonton, I'd love to see Trade Ford go there. Maybe those are really the only couple teams I could think of is Edmonton and maybe Toronto actually need a quarterback. Maybe Saskatchewan, depending on how long Trevor Harris is out for.
Yeah.
But not that Shea Patterson's been doing a bad job. He's done an adequate backup job, but Nathan Rourke will upgrade that quarterback position probably in an instant.
Yeah. All right, that's all the time we got for this week. Remember, folks, some people may love football more than we do, but nobody, and I mean nobody, loves more football than Adam and I sitting here in Kalamazoo. Until next time, I'm Randy Snow.
And I'm Adam Snow.
And we'll see you next week at one of the games.
At the 55-yard line.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, wouldn't it? Am I out of the frame yet?
Yes.